Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. It's continuing to take a look at this Week 6 slate, and we have a very intriguing SEC matchup as the Arkansas Razorbacks head on the road to play an Ole Miss team that is coming off just one of the more electric college football games that we've seen this 2023 season. Really excited to get into this one. Now, before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support for all these game breakdowns truly does mean a lot. So if you do enjoy the content, you want to support the boys, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, let me know in the comment section how you guys are feeling for this one. Ole Miss fans, I picked against Ole Miss against LSU last weekend. Obviously wrong. You guys let me hear about it. But again, appreciate y'all rocking with this. Whether you agree, whether you disagree, that's the best part about doing this, talking ball with you guys in the comment section. Now let's get into this. Got to start with this Ole Miss offense going up against an Arkansas defense that it's not an elite defense, but I really don't think it's as bad as some of the numbers say for Arkansas. Like the failure here, and as you just got to call it as you see it. It's on Sam Pittman, specifically this offensive line. I mean, you bring in Sam Pittman to kind of reestablish the trenches for this Arkansas team. This offensive line just simply has not been good enough. They can't establish the run game. They can't pass protect for KJ Jefferson. You take a look at this Arkansas offense. The problems don't have to do with KJ Jefferson. The problems have to do with this offensive line and not really being able to get anything going, whether they're protecting KJ or trying to run the football. Now, on the Ole Miss side, I was critical of this Ole Miss offensive line after that game against Tulane, after that game against Alabama. This Ole Miss offensive line put together a masterclass against LSU. You had 700 plus yards of offense. They didn't allow a single sack. They got the run game going, and that's kind of where I want to start. Why I didn't pick Ole Miss against LSU last week was I didn't think they would be able to pass protect against the LSU front seven. I didn't think they'd be able to establish the run against that LSU front seven. I was wrong on both the courts. I don't know what happened in the last 7 days, but Ole Miss and this offensive line really came together. You got Judkins going 33 carries for $177. Ulysses Bentley also had 9 carries for 90 yards. This was the most balanced Ole Miss rushing attack that you've seen all season, coupled with Jaxson Dart putting together a masterclass performance. When this Ole Miss offense is operating like it is right now, and Lane Kiffin wants to run the football. A lot of people see the highlights of the shot plays. This Ole Miss team and Lane Kiffin, they want to run the football. They want to get it to Judkins, Ulysses Bentley. They want to use Jaxson Dart in the run game. They were able to do that against LSU, and I think that's what won them the football game. Now, what's even more exciting for Ole Miss is I still don't think they're 100% at that wide receiver spot. When all these guys are healthy, I mean, this is a next-level pass-catching unit for Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin said in his postgame, Trey Harris before this LSU has been healthy for 9 drives. 7 of them resulted in touchdowns, 1 in a field goal, and Trey Harris accounted for 5 of those touchdowns. Trey Harris is the wide receiver 1 in this offense, and when he is healthy, a full go, he is one of the better wide receivers in the SEC. I think you saw that. But when the absence of Trey Harris and Zachary Franklin, who I still don't think is 100% healthy, you had Jordan Watkins, Dayton Wade really step up. What I would say is if this offensive line continues to improve, you get Judkins, who I think was the healthiest we've seen him as well. You get Trey Harris, Franklin, Caden Prescorn, all healthy. I mean, this Ole Miss offense, the second half of the season, in my mind, it looks to be one of the more powerful, high-octane offenses that you'll see now. Going up against this Arkansas defense, Arkansas has been getting after the passer really well. I mean, you got some really good linebackers. Landon Jackson is a really, really quality edge rusher. Still some question marks in the secondary. I think it's taken a step in the right direction. My biggest concern is Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin really, really good at confusing secondaries, dialing up those shot plays. This Arkansas secondary that you have some new guys, you have some transfer portal guys in there. I have a feeling that Lane Kiffin will be able to attack that secondary. Hard to see Ole Miss, after what they just did to LSU, not put up some points. And you go on the flip side, this Arkansas offense, I kind of told you guys what my concerns were to back them up with some numbers. I mean, this is an offense that's averaging 3.3 yards per carry on the ground. That is 106 nationally. I mean, that is in the bottom three-fourths of the country. Again, Rocket Sanders hasn't been healthy. I don't think the running backs or KJ Jefferson is the problem. And on top of that, they've been sacked 14.29% of the time. That is 129th in the country. That is almost dead last. I mean, those are two brutal numbers for an Arkansas offense that what's their identity? They ran the ball in 57% of their plays. They want to run the football. They just can't. And you saw them against Texas A&M in that front seven. They only gained 174 total yards. KJ Jefferson pretty much running for his life, not being able to get anything going on the ground. If Arkansas doesn't have an offensive line that's elite, it's the identity of the team. And you're seeing that offense really struggle when they can't pass protect and they can't establish that run game. Traditionally, you look to last year, Arkansas Ole Miss matchup. Oh, Arkansas is going to try to establish the run, keep that Ole Miss offense off the field, control the time possession. You look back last year, Rocket Sanders had 24 carries for 232 yards in an absolute blowout. It's hard to see that story being replicated because Ole Miss in their front seven, I think this is the most, and I've kind of said this, I think this is the most talented Ole Miss defense that we've seen. And I get it didn't have a great product on the field against LSU. I will counter that with like Jaden Daniels, Ryan Thomas, Malik Neighbors. Lane Kiffin said in his press conference, and you'd have to agree, when that LSU offense is on, Arkansas fans know this. I mean, it is one of the best offenses in the entire country. I'm not downgrading Ole Miss, although it needs to play better. I'm not like panicking on this Ole Miss defense aggregately. They've been pretty good. And I would look for Ole Miss to get after KJ Jefferson and treat him very similar to Jaden Daniels or Jalen Milroe, two quarterbacks that you just saw. Right? You're sacking the quarterback at 8.7% of the time. That is top 30 in the country for Ole Miss. You have a mobile quarterback, one that you just saw in Jaden Daniels and Jalen Milroe. You know they're going to be locked in. They're going to be locked in on KJ Jefferson and what he can do with his legs. For me, when I look at these numbers, it's just hard to see Arkansas continuing to move the ball against this Ole Miss defense that, again, I think is pretty solid. You look at that front four, J.J. Peggers, Cedric Johnson, Isaac Akwu from James Madison, really, really good linebackers. Suntarine Perkins getting involved a little bit more every single week. He reminds me of a Harold Perkins trajectory, and I get that's lofty expectations, but Harold Perkins getting his feet wet the first 6 games and then kind of took over the college football world by storm the back half of that season. You might see a little bit of that for Suntarine Perkins. Now, getting to the pick, Arkansas heading on the road, 10.5-point dogs to this Ole Miss team. Ole Miss coming off a massive win at home. Arkansas coming off 2 really disappointing losses. From a vibe standpoint, I think this Ole Miss team is believing in themselves. They had a massive bounce back from what was a very disappointing game against Alabama. It's really hard not to see Ole Miss winning this one and winning this one comfortably. You look at this Arkansas team, not great offensive line play. You don't really have that. You look at Arkansas previously, you knew what their identity was. Running the ball, KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders, good running back, good offensive line. When I look at this offensive team for Arkansas, there's just not much that scares me, right? They can't really run the ball. They can't really bury you in the ground like they used to. They have solid wide receivers. They don't have game-breaking wide receivers. You look on the other side, this Ole Miss team coming off a massive win against LSU where their offense was as balanced and as good as we've seen it. It's hard not to rock with Ole Miss here. Give me Ole Miss covering the 10.5 points at home. A lot of momentum, slowly getting this team back healthy. This is one of the more dangerous teams in the SEC if they can play like that against LSU. Now, some things to fix on the defensive side of the ball, but this Ole Miss team is dangerous as they continue to get healthy. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, again, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.